Welcome to this webinar of the ICA, the International Crime Prevention through Environmental Design Association. The ICA is a professional non-profit global organization for all things related to Cpted. This webinar is one of many programs that we run as the ICA in support of the prevention of crime and the creation of safer places. My name is Tinus Kruger, and I'm the Executive Director of the ICA. I'm based in South Africa, but as you know, the ICA is a global organization with members throughout the world. Just a few administrative issues. Make sure that your microphones and your cameras are not activated. You're welcome to use the chat to introduce yourself. And it's always interesting and nice to know who's part of this webinar. We may deactivate the chat during the presentations if we see that people are talking while they should be listening, so to speak. And please use the Q&A function should you want to post questions or comments, not the chat function. Please use the Q&A function. And you're welcome to write down your questions as we proceed with the presentations. We invite you to take advantage of the many programs that we offer by joining the ICA. You can use the link provided on the screen there, or contact us if you have any questions. I've also put this information in the chat, so you should be able to see it. We want to make you aware of the disclaimer that you now see on your screen. In particular, we want to make sure that you understand that the views expressed in this presentation belong to our guest speakers and do not necessarily reflect the position of the ICA. And furthermore, the ICA does not assume legal responsibility for the speaker's statement and the intellectual property or the information presented today. Okay, let's begin with the webinar. It is my pleasure to welcome all of you, our attendees and our panelists, namely Elizabeth Miller, Renee Bernd, and Carlos Gutierrez, who's also our moderator today. I will now hand over to Carlos to start the discussions, but in the meantime, I just want to make you aware that I'll also put some information in the chat about the next major ICA global conference, which will be held in Palm Springs in California, USA next year. And I would like you to go and look at our website. The information will be posted. So now it's time for Carlos to introduce our panelists and to assist us in facilitating this process. Thanks, Carlos.
Yeah, great. Stop sharing. I will share the screen.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone. My name is Carlos Gutierrez. I'm an ICA board director, and I'll be hosting and moderating this webinar today. Greetings from the beautiful city and sunny city of Tegucigalpa in Honduras, where I'm at the present moment. Today, we are going to present a Cpted approach that it first was developed in the school environment. That's why our webinar today is called Cpted School Beyond the School Environment. Okay, I want to welcome our panelists today. Renee Bernd, who is in Portland, USA. Renee is an architect, also member of the ICA board with extensive experience in schools, designing and implementing Cpted in schools, okay? And also is a member of the ICA Cpted School Committee, and he's been a great contributor to the ICA guide for Cpted schools. Also, I want to welcome Elizabeth Miller. She's in the beautiful city of Saskatoon in Canada. Also, she's a member of the ICA board, a great contributor to the Cpted school work that we have done over the years, and she's a planner for the city of Saskatoon and with massive, extensive experience working with kids. So welcome, Elizabeth. I want to mention also something that we will present today regarding our last conference that it was in the amazing city of Sao Paulo in Brazil. We will present a little piece of the work that we did there with children. It's a methodology called the Cloud of Dreams. And again, greetings from Tegucigalpa in Honduras. This is the 4 locations that you see in the map where we are located today, since we are a global organization. Next one, please, Renee. Well, when we are talking about a comprehensive approach in Cpted, we are talking about joining the physical, the social, and the psycho-emotional environment in one big component. The 3 components must intertwine together, work together, make a synergy. And these 3 elements, they have been, present in society since humankind exists. The physical environment, we have always need a place to shelter. We have always need a place to trade, a place to meet. So the physical environment is always been present in the life of human beings. Also, social interaction. In different ways, depending upon the culture, but social interaction among humans is always been present. And also, the environment of the psycho-emotional of inner world that each one of us has, and is not independent of what happens in our physical and our social environment. The 3 components together, working as a whole, is what we call the holistic, or the comprehensive approach. Next one, please. Well, the school environment is the first place where has the ICA, as a global organization promoting Cpted, we put together the comprehensive approach. The school is a microcosm where we find all types of human behaviors. It's an environment where children learn to be sociable, but also where aggression can manifest itself. For example, in the form of bullying and vandalism. While students might have the opportunity to build and develop the skills necessary to live a non-violent lifestyle, children can also unlearn bad behaviors that could lead them to a better way of living. All right. So the school environment, it was the perfect place in order to start implementing the comprehensive Cpted approach. Next one, please. Well, we have developed already a Cpted school guidebook that you can find logging into the ICA website. Okay. It's a work that's been done over the years, and it has a large contribution from different members of the ICA globally. Next one, please. Well, let's talk very briefly over the main concept or environment of Cpted. The first one and the oldest one that is being put into practice since the early 70s, what we call first generation Cpted, is the physical environment, okay, in which we promote concepts as like natural surveillance, human scale maintenance, definition of entrances, okay? Basically applying the principles of Cpted in the physical environment. That's what we call Cpted first generation. Next one, please. For second generation, we talk about the interaction, the people interaction, communities empowerment, community participation, community engagement, meaning that we are one step further than just the physical environment. And now we are integrating how people relate, how people can make a better community, how people can get better relationship, how people can improve communication, and how they use their wisdom, what we call the native knowledge or the native experience, the knowledge and experience that everyone have in their own community that can, of course, apply in projects, trying to improve safety and other issues that they are relevant for the community. So social environment is what we call second generation Cpted. Next one, please. For third generation Cpted, we are talking about a psycho-emotional environment, but not only that. Third generation Cpted, it kind of composed all the 2 previous environments, but at the same time is considering and implementing what we see in the Maslow pyramid at the top of the pyramid. Self-expression, positive life, maintenance, sustainability. We are talking about a neighborhood, okay? But basically, we are talking about that things that they are kind of subtle and depend on each one of us. How can we promote and make better the feeling that we have in our community? How we promote health, for instance, mental health, that today is a big issue, and physical health. So those are some of the elements that compose third generation Cpted, and it certainly opens a whole new world to explore and find expressions of how to connect with the second generation and first generation Cpted, okay? So that's, in general, what we could say are the three environment of Cpted, and the three of them working together is what we call the comprehensive approach. Next one, please. So let me tell you a little bit on how we are applying the comprehensive approach here in Honduras. First of all, I would like to say that Cpted is being applied in Central America, specifically in the North Triangle, Honduras, Guatemala, and El Salvador for a long time. The German cooperation, the financial international cooperation from Germany, is being promoting and supporting these kind of projects for a long time in the three countries, Honduras, Guatemala, El Salvador, also with the support of local municipalities and community organizations. They have been providing fundings for a specific project, which I'm going to talk a little bit today, which is called Convivir, the Coexistence program, since 2014, and will end up working in 2028. Next one, please. We wanted to bring this example of how the German cooperation is being supporting the Cpted project, because sometimes people might think that Cpted is only applied in smaller scale, which is true, but also Cpted is being applied in a large scale, considering many different cities and an interrelationship, you know, in between communities in a larger scale than just working in a single neighborhood or an area of a neighborhood. Bringing all three environments together, how we are doing it in Honduras. On top of using all the Cpted concepts in the physical environment and in the social environment, we are bringing to the table to implement Cpted elements that are on the way. They are working as we speak with communities and organizations. For instance, restorative justice that seeks involving all affected, you know, in violence acts and achieve reparation through dialogue and mediation. I'm talking about this as an example in a very brief and simple way, because it's a more complex issue that probably needs much further development. But one of the interesting things that, according what we are looking for in Cpted third generation, is some sort of healing in communities. Communities are deeply wounded for many different reasons, you know, poverty, violence, crime, many of the hard issues that we are dealing with pretty much every day, not only in Central America or here in Honduras, but in many places around the world. So that kind of issues are bringing to the communities emotional damage, okay? And we need to solve that. We need to see how we implement actions that can create these necessary healings and mending the wounds, the violence, and the lack of opportunities, you know, the damages that young people are suffering for the way they are living in very violent environments. And also, this is all part of improving and empowering the active community participation that it will certainly strengthen social ties, which are very relevant for Cpted implementing projects. Next one, please. One of the interesting things that we've been doing in Honduras, especially in the first phase that it was running between 2014 and 2020, is working with community leaders, gathering with them, making them participate, especially using a methodology called PEC, projects executed by the community. They, in an organized manner and after going through an extensive training program, they are the one that manage the fundings for each one of the projects. But in a larger scale, in an urban level, we work the projects as a community ecosystems. How you can see in the graphic, the little squares represent different projects that we connected with safe routes. So they are all connected, and the idea is they create synergy among them in order to start recovering spaces that they have been many times taken by violence, and antisocial groups. So community and a proper planning, seeing not just the individual project, but in a larger scale as a community ecosystem is one of the concepts that we've been implying. Next one, please. At the same time, at the neighborhood level, we created what we call the Center for Quality of Life, which consider, for instance, a place for counseling, specifically a place for counseling for young people, conflict resolution, and a big multipurpose room where community can gather and do many other things. Of course, all these community projects, what we call also community hubs, they are working in an integrated manner with sport complexes and always with large community participation. That's fundamental. If community is not organized with good training about how to run and how to plan the project, there's a missing link that is very important, okay? So community participation again, and from third generation Cpted, anything that might help mental health, physical health, conflict resolution is relevant. Next one, please. Well, this is just a small example of how design can help the community to get together. This was a square that it was completely abandoned, a small park. And we created this simple design around the trees, benches, and a little roof with connecting outlets so they can connect their phones or their computers. And they go there in the afternoon to do homework and get together. And this is how a very simple design can help, especially at the young level, get together and start using that space in a good way for the benefit of the community. Next one, please. And now I'm going to show a short video and a short greeting for our president, Dr. Macarena Rao. This is a video that shows a little bit of what we call the cloud dream that it was applied in Brazil at the last ICA conference. Please bear with us. Some of the texts are in Portuguese, but what is important is that you see the kids participating and how through drawings they are expressing their ideas and dreams about the community or the place they want. Thank you, René, please.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, how are you? My name is Dr. Macarena Rao, and I am the president of the International Cpted Association. I will describe very short, very brief, very interesting experience that we had with Olga González del Riego and some fellows from Cpted Brazil. Last year in the ICA conference, we did a Cloud of Dream workshop in a favela, Paraisópolis, and we work there with children and with students, and also with teachers, asking children how they feel about their environment. This tool was developed by myself and architect Carlos Gutierrez Vera, also ICA director and the leader of the school committee in 2006 in Chile. So we gather with students and also with teachers from Programa Einsteins in Favela Paraisópolis. We also had a very good assembly before starting the Cloud of Dream. We asked them to dream their settlement, their environment. children were super interested expressing their dreams, and we applied 7 filters of analysis. How many elements from the drawings repeat more, and we had the results of windows and houses. Differences, for example, some children talk about racism. They were victim of racism, and others wanted to become stars, theater stars. Also messages regarding avoiding garbage, for example. Also, we analyze the level of attachment, emotional attachment they have with the surrounding environment, analyzing the way they draw with different colors. Also, we analyze the types of colors. We saw that the sample was a very positive and health sample with bright colors. The geometry of the drawings were very interesting also. They prioritized in the middle of the draw some playgrounds, as were very interesting. And also it was very interesting how they draw themselves interacting and playing football, as they say, soccer, in some playgrounds and sport areas. As conclusions, we can say that this was a super interesting workshop. The Cloud of Dream methodology was described also in the school guides developed by the school committee from ICA, International Cpted Association. And some conclusions are very relevant to hear voices from children from different parts of the world using tools like the Cloud of Dreams and others. And also it's very relevant to have a very holistic and comprehensive approach to understand school environments. Here are some examples of the drawing. I hope these two will be developed in more settlements that are very dangerous in different parts of the world. Thank you, and thank you to all the members of the school committee for the great work from the ICA they are doing. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you, Macarena. And I'm gonna kick off the next section where we're gonna share some applications from the United States of America. And again, we all live in different parts of the world. We all have a different context in which we work. And my background personally is the background of an architect working in the city of Portland in the northwest of the United States. And again, building environments and of course, understanding the relevance of the physical environment, how that can impact actually the social behavior and psycho-emotional behavior of all. But what I want to share today actually is my own work environment, because we recently actually created a new office. And that actually is a great representation of how applying the comprehensive approach really includes considerations for the social and psycho-emotional well-being of the worker. Because you could say this photo, I mean, it's a nice office, but this could have been an office a long time ago, except for the monitors maybe and the technology on display here. But these are just individual workstations, where people work individually on the task at hand. However, in our office, this is just one aspect of how we work together. You actually see myself in one of our small group rooms where we work as a team, because it all takes we say it takes a village to create a building or an urban environment, the design of such one. And so we actually very team oriented, but we never really had a space to come together. So in the new office, we have smaller tables where we can actually work together, 2 or 3 or 4, sometimes up to 8 people in a room to share what we are maybe struggling with at the moment, where we need support, how we, doing meeting deadlines. And again, the idea is that we don't feel we're just by ourselves, because there is, of course, a history of workplace violence. And again, using this kind of building a kind of a social fabric or network that really supports everybody, and we don't stress out people because they feel left alone and maybe unable to manage a task. So understanding where everybody is really important to us. And there's another section of our office where we do this even in a larger group, where we come together as a whole office community. And this space is actually right between the street, our kind of neighborhood. And this was actually envisioned that we even make the space available for community groups to be a good neighbor, to reach outside of the confine of our four walls of the office, but actually be a good neighbor and have a positive impact on the community around us. Again, so again, if everybody's connected and if there's a social network, the same as Carlos described, between different places in the city, our street will be safer too. I mean, the street is safer, our neighborhood will be safer as well. And of course, and also this goes beyond even the office environment. Immediately, we have annual retreats, for example, where we visit our work. It's always good to learn lessons learned, what we do well and what we don't do well, understand talking to our users. And again, these are moments where we all come together and that fosters this feeling of cohesion. We actually have two offices, one in Seattle, one in Portland. And these moments when we come all together is again an opportunity to see who is part of our, kind of family. We educate ourselves together, we learn, we share ideas, because again, we all have different experiences, different backgrounds, different points of view about everything, basically. And it's great to come together and share those moments. And of course, we apply the same principles to our clients. When we start a new process, same as Carlos starting new processes all over Honduras, we do so here for maybe a new school design. We bring the community in and we ask what matters to the community. And we have different tools actually to really gauge, as Carlos and Macarena even mentioned in Brazil with the Cloud of Dreams, we have different ways of finding out what are the community needs and desires. We also don't only stay in our office, we also go on project sites to actually learn with the people we're working for, what their community context is. And of course, it's very important in the end. Construction is actually the realization of our design work, and it's a super, I mean, it's a dangerous place to work. And we see many of our contractor kind of colleagues, actually implementing like an early morning meditation or actually exercises that really make sure that the workers understand that they're focusing on what they're doing, they're not distracted by anything, and they're really realizing that, again, it takes a team to create these things and work together and build a trust, because you have to, sometimes you can't look everywhere and there's dangerous activities or dangerous situations all around. You have to trust your workers. And again, that, teamwork is really the only way to accomplish this. So you have to work together. So again, that was, I think, a great way to just bring it back to understanding how this comprehensive approach actually realized in many parts of our life, maybe already. And again, bringing that over to safety and understanding the aspects of safety was something we wanted to share today. And I'm going to hand it over to Elizabeth now.
Thanks, Renee and Carlos. I'm going to talk a little bit about what we're doing in parts of Canada. I don't know if it's a comprehensive approach in the entire of Canada. Switch. But I'm going to look at community as a school. So we've talked about, applying this in a school environment, and Renee has talked about applying it in a work environment. And so I'm going to talk about basically applying this in an environment that's outside of the school, but as using the community as a form of school. Next. These are the principles that we use in Saskatoon. There's probably more than some of you use, but this is what we have used. We have applied that in a number of ways, and we have it's also resident in our official community plan. So any development has to include this. Next. We use a holistic approach. It's very similar to some of the planning that we do. It's a comprehensive community-based approach. It includes the physical, it includes the social and the psycho-emotional. Again, typically we're applying this inside and with children in schools. And I'll show you a couple of examples of other projects where we engage the children and youth in the environment. Next. Planners Working with Kids was an organization, or actually not an organization, it was a group of was two planners. We worked together because what we wanted to do was, number one, we wanted to have planners include children in the work that they do. People would say, oh, I don't know how to do it. I don't know how to get into the school. I don't know how to attract kids. I haven't had much luck. So we wanted to be able to help them do that. We also wanted to be able to set something up for teachers so that they could apply some of this inside their curriculum. So the document was set up so that there was a series of activities. It's for different age groups. It addresses different curriculum needs next. And so a teacher could go through that and find something, a planner could go through that and find something that they could use. This is the one that I did in a school. And so the kids went through the full planning process to develop a new community. And if you look at some of the photographs, so on the left-hand side, that is some of the things that they had to learn as they worked together to take 5 land use maps that they had created individually and make them into one land use map. You can see them working together. The Springfield in the middle was the community that they developed, and so they went through the whole process of how you would do that. The little fellow at the top right, he went home and built a casino, and then he took, his mom told me later, he took the Christmas lights off the Christmas tree so he could put them on his casino box, and he had lights on his box next. So this was a process that the kids went through where they learned all those things, how to get together, some of those skills with working in teams, together, conflict resolution. The other program we have in our planning department is a local area plan. So those are comprehensive community-based plans where we'll go into a neighborhood for upwards of a year, and we'll work with the community to look at what do they like about their neighborhood, what don't they like, what would they like changed, what kind of bugs them, do some visioning, that kind of thing. And I always try, I do the safety part of that. And so I always try to get into the school or to get kids to participate either through another organization or having their parents bring them. So we've done a number of things because safety always comes up where we're working with the kids. And it's always really interesting if you ask them the same question, like what the kids say versus what the adults say. Are they similar? Are they not similar? Like what do the kids see that the adults don't, or vice versa? Next. And sometimes we go out and we do safety audits, and we do things in the community. So we made a chalkboard at the top left. We made a chalkboard, and we said, it says, I think it says, I make Meadow Green safer by, and so the idea was to try and get a response from the community as to what they do to help themselves make safer. Or sometimes it'll say, I love Meadow Green because, and so it's just a way to collect some information. The picture of the map was when we went, it was one of our most distressed neighborhoods. And so we took the same questions out to a youth group, a youth center. We bribed them with food and pop and all sorts of things. And we said, if we can get some answers from you, we'll have a pizza party. And so that's basically what we did. And we even changed some of the wording. For example, we'd be looking at heritage, for example. So heritage, municipal services, that kind of thing might not mean anything to a young person. So we tried to change the language that it would make sense to them, and sometimes be a little funny, like, how does your toilet flush kind of thing, like to deal with municipal services. And then we go out into the community with safety audits. So this is a safety audit book that we developed. We go out to we'll go to a park or an area or whatever. We typically try and keep the youth groups separate from the adults, just because we find that the youth will be more forthcoming if there's no adults to hear what they have to say. And sometimes we don't have enough people, so we'll put them together, but we'll have 2 different facilitators so that they're facilitating something different. And what actually comes out sometimes is that what the adults will go, oh, I never thought of it that way. And so the kids will actually bring up something that the adults didn't think about. Dan Warden Park was a project that we were approached. The STAG committee, which was Student Teacher Advisory Group at this high school, they would get together every year and they would pick out a couple of issues that the students wanted to deal with, something that meant something to the students. And one of it was the safety of Dan Warden Park. And so we were brought in to look at how can we help the students actually develop something that would be useful. So we went into the school and we talked to them. We did a number of things. We set out safety audits. We had site visits. We took some of the students over to the seniors' residence, which was adjacent to the park. And the seniors, or the high school students, were actually helping facilitate the group with the seniors. And the two that we had, I would have hired them. They were better at some of this stuff than some of the entry-level planners that I've seen. So this school completed like over 1,000 safety audits. They would go out in classes, I found out later. And we did all this work. Next. And so what we developed is, this is just a little explanation of the school. It had, it was a big school, 1,300 students, and they offered a number of different programs for students, from French immersion to commercial cooking. Next. We set up a work program, and what we did was, in talking to some of the other school teachers, is that the area was not used as appropriately as it could have been used. And so what are we going to do? What did the students want? We had a little charrette. What could we do? What could we plan? What could the school help us with? So this is the welding teacher. He's in the blue there with the orange thing on the front of his t-shirt. And the students designed and built in the welding class. They built these benches and this and these trash cans. They built 2 sets, and so it was all student designed, student crafted. The students from carpentry came out and did the concrete base, and there's a group in town that did some work with the students. They didn't want to be identified, but they made up a little plaque. They're a metal group, and they made up a little plaque basically saying, honoring the work that the students had done. And we weren't done 5 minutes putting that bench in, and this guy came along and sat down. So we're going, yay! And over the years, next we have found that it has been a little bit better there. They still have some issues, but it is what it is. The goal of the safety audit is to find local knowledge. It's like, I can go out and look at something and go, oh, this is an issue, that's an issue, there's an issue. But if we go out, for example, using the students, if we go out with the students, they could point exactly to where things were happening and what was happening. Next. And it's a highly flexible process that allows us to get out into the community. So there was a bunch of kids that came out for high school students. And what was interesting about this one was, in my community, there's 2 school systems. One is called the public school system, one is the separate school system. So one is basically Catholic and one is everybody else. And these 2 schools are quite close together, but they had never done anything together. And we invited them to come and participate with us, and they came. And apparently it's the first time in history that those 2 schools had got together to do anything together. So we were going, yay. The rest of these pictures just show some of the work that we've done, looking at things, taking the kids out, what they were doing, what they were thinking about. Next. And it's a way to get them to tell you, to look at, to show you where the issues are. And they must be engaged, and they must be engaged authentically. So don't ask them what they want to see and hear and do unless you're going to actually use it. Now, it doesn't mean that, oh, I want a big, I want Disneyland on my park. Well, of course, that's not going to happen, and you have to manage their expectations. But they're pretty good at that. They're pretty good at managing their own expectations. Yeah, they can be silly sometimes, but they're lots of fun. And if you don't include them, then we're missing a really valuable section of the background and the work that we're doing. They should participate. They can participate. They have really great ideas, and they deserve to be included, because this is going to be their world once we move on. They're going to live in the design that we've got. So we should include them. And so those are just a few things that Saskatoon has. I believe that's my last slide. Has included in trying to include children and youth in the work that we do in safety, but also in planning in general. And with that, I'll turn it back to Carlos. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth. Thank you so much, Renee. Well, I think it's been a great presentation, and I would say, Elizabeth, that the work that you've been doing with kids, it perfectly sits also in the context of third generation Cpted, because when the kids are expressing themselves, when they are drawing us in the cloud of dreams, when they are doing things naturally, they come out from their feelings. That third generation Cpted is the inner soul, is the inner expression that is being put out, and it turns into a bench, it turns into an idea, it turns into a mural or something that is, very relevant for them and their community. The other interesting thing is that when we work with kids, and for sure you might have that experience, parents are also getting closer. Sometimes attracting the parents to participate in something is very hard, but once you have their kids participating, they come along. And that's the way, leave no one behind. Everybody gets, on the ball, everybody gets participating, but the motor or the leading, is from children. And that's why it's very important and relevant that they are present and that they participate, and they're having to do it in their own way. In my case, I have many experiences, especially with the cloud of dreams, when children express things that they will never say into words. But in a drawing, you can start seeing things that they happen in the family level or in the neighborhood that otherwise they will never express. So that subconscious mind, that inner world starting to express through the drawings, through a self-expression, in the forms of art, even in sports, because they might get out, that aggressiveness that this might have sometimes, but they express it in a good way. So I think it's very interesting how these different ways expressing Cpted can contribute to get better communities. And the experience that Renee was showing is also very interesting, how in a work environment and in the field side, in the work side, they are building a school, even practicing a few minutes of meditation can avoid accidents, When I worked in the US in the 90s, in the mid and late 90s, I saw many times workers, smoking marijuana before getting to work just to relax. That's not the way, okay? If you do a few minutes of meditation, you're also going to calm down, feel better, and it probably your work and your whole day is gonna go much better. So practicing meditation or practicing, self-awareness or any other exercise, maybe a few minutes of yoga or something like that, that for some people might sound strange, weird, but it's just maybe because we are not used to do that, because it's not part of our daily life. It's not part of what is usually done in a work environment. But little by little, if these kind of practices are getting into place and getting to be something like normal, I think that we could get much better communities and working places and communities. I don't know if Chinus has some questions. I don't see the question.
There's some in the chat. There's some in the Q&A.
Oh, they are in the Q&A.
Do you want me to read it?
Yeah, if you find something, please.
Sure. Question number 1 was from Raymond, and it states there has been some recent claims that Cpted is racist. How do we respond to this claim? Might as well go right off the bat. Renee?
There we go. Yeah.
That was the first. That was the first
question.
go.
Yeah. Actually, I personally, had to answer that question a lot of times because in our community, that's a big concern. Safety is racist for some reason. So it really, I think examples like we're sharing today from all over the world, actually exemplifies, I think, that first of all, safety is not only a global concern, but Cpted is a global approach to safety. And about the racism, is really misguided label, because Cpted really is a passive approach that is driven by the community. So it's never sending other people, except when we do these audits, maybe, into the community. But ideally, my first exposure to Cpted started with Jane Jacobs, and just having like community members occupying the stairs in front of their houses or the little front yards, or the kids playing on the sidewalk. This is the best scenario of safety. These are safe neighborhoods when the community is out and about, when you don't need anybody, because sometimes it's like, oh, law enforcement, is coming in and creating safety. But no, ideally, the neighbors are there for each other. We're building community from the community. So it cannot be really racist, because it's supposed to be the community who lives in the neighborhood. We're not employing anybody else. So the only thing that, of course, sometimes happens is once a neighborhood that was maybe problematic, and dangerous, becomes really safe and nice, then other people coming in. And that is, of course, a problem that even Jane Jacobs described, about potential gentrification, and but that's something else you have to do it in a different way. But yeah, it's not racist, because it's coming through the community, whatever color, race, or gender you are. You are the ones who are creating safety by just being active community members. So that's my take on this. Maybe Carlos and Elizabeth, you have other.
Yeah, well, I would like to express a few ideas about that. I've been practicing and studying Cpted since the early 2000s. And only now, in the, I don't know, couple of years, I've been listening this issue about Cpted being racist. I never heard anything like that before. I never read anything like that before. I have never seen anything related to racism in any Cpted documents, in any training, in anything, okay? And one of the first things I learned when I started learning and practicing Cpted in the early 2000s is that, as you perfectly mentioned, is the community that is applying the principles. Okay? The basic principles of Cpted that we saw in this presentation today, natural surveillance, access control, maintenance, they are just principles. By any means, shape or form, are promoting any kind of racism. I would say that this is coming from maybe people that they have a depth of a napkin, okay, in the knowledge of Cpted. They don't really know Cpted. They don't really know what it is. Especially now that we are talking about the third generation, where we are integrating many other things that, of course, they have been always present, but now kind of we have them in a more formal and academic way. We are integrating more than ever communities to participate. We just saw the Cloud of Dreams, where children come together, even parents come together sometimes, the drawing activities for children, but parents or grandparents get enthusiastic about it and also grab a piece of paper and also start drawing. So Cpted is about promoting community engagement, community participation. No one gets left behind. I think that's a nice principle. I've been working with that principle lately here in Honduras. No one left behind. Okay, everybody should participate. Where is racism coming when you are promoting that everybody is participating? So just to finalize the idea, I would say that the first things that we could answer when someone says this Cpted is racist, go study on Cpted, get a training, become a practitioner, okay? Learn real Cpted, okay? And that will, cast away any misconceptions.
Just going forward from Renee and Carlos, I think it's the application, it's the practitioner that can control some of that. I don't think the concept or the philosophy is racist as it is. I think perhaps how it's been applied sometimes may be considered or seen as that. And so I think as a practitioner, for me anyway, I look very carefully at who's in the room, what's happening, what kind of things are going on. If you look at some of the communities that maybe have just limited it to first generation Cpted, you'll find that happens more often than not, that you get a conflict between two user groups that you're trying to keep apart. And so some of our strategies have been a bit of a blunt instrument, but I think we've moved on from that. And that would just be, if you're including the community. And again, I think you have to be aware of what your community is, what kind of community you've got, and how that community works. So you need to have that local knowledge, but you also need to know your stuff, like who's in that community, what are they, how are you going to get them out? So like, for example, how are you going to get the seniors out? Or maybe you need to go see them, that type of thing. Do you want me to read the second one, Carlos?
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
So this is from Dinesh. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, Dinesh. Implementing Cpted is always a challenge and sometimes tricky in schools, especially when some schools are government undertaking and some are private schools. Political interventions, government permissions are always making the effort slow. What are some checkboxes that we can tick to ensure we overcome challenges? Renee, over to you.
Thank you. Yeah. I do focus on schools, and before I go into the kind of what we do in the physical environment, actually, there's a great example of one of our co-authors of the Cpted School Guide. There was Fleur Knight in New Zealand, and she just started as a teacher to just like without I don't know, she didn't get all the permissions. She just started to integrate Cpted principles and audits and this into her classes. So I know sometimes you could try to start really big, but the nice thing is with Cpted, you can maybe just like integrate it into your curriculum in your class. And she sent the class out, and they were investigating. Like Carlos said, students know best. They know exactly in which corners of the school yard or the school campus bullying happened. I mean, vandalism is easy to see for everybody, but they know exactly what dynamics were at play. And sometimes making that, I don't know, it was social studies and whatnot, but integrating this awareness, so anyway, that's just one thing I was saying. You can start small, just with the class and your students, and then it can spread, and then somehow there's momentum, like, oh wow, this teacher had that success, and now actually somehow the cafeteria is a safer place to eat, or the restrooms are better, or so once people see there's actually results, this could actually really feed a momentum, and maybe not start building a district-wide, and start maybe at a lower level. And if you have any other, Carlos.
Yeah, to complement a little bit the Renee's answer, baby steps, sometimes you can start applying Cpted even without not telling that you're applying Cpted. For instance, if you are promoting a maintenance program, and you see the school is kind of, run down and, all dirty and, in very bad shape. If you run a program to start improving the physical, facilities, that's Cpted, okay? If you can spot that there is a problem in the accessing the school, okay, there is no control, there's no camera, there's no one there, okay, whatever, well, you can put that out as a problem, as an issue to solve, not necessarily saying that it's Cpted, but it is one of the Cpted principles, okay? And the other thing, as Renee mentioned, and Fleur Knight in New Zealand did a great job with that. She was kind of getting into the curricula of schools and inserting, in the issues, in the matters, in the curricula without changing anything. It was just complementing and integrating new ideas, new concepts into a curriculum. So that didn't need to change anything at the government level, and anything, just improving what they already have. So in order to put together practice Cpted in a school, I would say in any other environment, even in a work environment, once the practitioner gets to know very well and understand, this is very relevant, understanding the basis of the principles, they can be applied in the baby steps, little by little, even without telling anybody that you are applying Cpted. It's just common sense. And it would probably, will be well received by the community.
Mm-hmm.
And I started basically in my kids' classroom because that's what I had access to. And I just said to them, I want to come in and do this. I want to come in and do this thing. This is what I can do. And would you like to do that? And depending on what what grade. I had 3 kids that went through, and I went to all of their classes and then to other classes. As Renee says, you start small, and one teacher finds out that you're doing something, and the rest of them want to do something as well. And then within my planning, within work, I would plan it into the going to the school in whatever neighborhood we happen to be in. I was not successful in every school. Sometimes we would go, like it was summer, and we did a like where kids go when their parents are working. Like it was like childcare, but it was a group that they did all sorts of things. And one of the things we did was we took the safety audit book and we made it really kid friendly. So the words were kid friendly, and so we sent them out. We took them out, and we did an audit on the same park that the adults had done, and that was just a way to get in there. But I think if you can match the curriculum, or you can connect with the principal, and that means you have to understand how your school system works. So for me here, if I want to go into one school system, I have to do it one way. If I want to go into another school system, I have to do it a different way. I have to go directly to the principal. And often I go to my brothers, or I go to my nieces and nephews with their kids and go, hey, do you think your kid's teacher would want to do this? And that's the way I get in. I get in one school at a time. And then eventually, hopefully, somebody will ask me to come and do the whole school. I don't know.
And maybe, yeah, because we've referred often in the beginning to this guidebook we actually created, which all of us here, and
Yes.
Fleur Knight is actually co-author. And there we actually have these different chapters, because our point was that's how this whole comprehensive approach term was coined, because we felt like the changes and approaches have to be parallel in the physical environment, in the social environment, and the psycho-emotional. So all together then really can change the school climate, again, from at a large scale or a smaller scale. So
Yeah,
exactly. And even sometimes this is a kind of catch-22, because you could start for any of the environments, okay, and later start adding up a little bit. It will depend also on how hard is to get with the Cpted concept in a school. Maybe, as I said before, baby steps in any of the environment, the 3 environments that we talk today. But what is interesting or important is that at some point, the 3 environments can work together in parallel, and they start creating synergy among each other. But in the beginning, it could be hard. I would say also that we cannot think that the Cpted plan or the Cpted implementation project is going to be, in a couple of months. Maybe it's going to take a few years. Maybe it's going to take, a while until the community start getting involved, community start understanding the process, and little by little, we start building the Cpted concept in the school or in any other environment. Because that was one of the things that we wanted to talk about today, that we started in the schools with the concept of the comprehensive approach, but we can take that beyond the school, okay? And the same principle, the same thing that we've been talking here regarding how to implement Cpted in the school, maybe it's going to be in a community, okay? Little by little, step by step, but having always the bigger picture, so we cannot fly blind. Okay, we have our navigation and we know where we have to go, but the weather conditions, to put it in a way, allowed us only to go in a certain space, in a certain way. But we know the route. We know very well where we have to get, and that's the thing, right?
Good. Next question. This is from Ivan. I don't think 3rd generation Cpted has been very helpful in dealing with the physical security and mental health related violence. Renee, what's your response to that?
Yeah, interesting. So, well, the whole purpose of 3rd generation is really what we try in schools to to actually increase everybody's mental resiliency, So if you allow students to be more relaxed and again, and more calm, because we do this through the physical environment, through the social cohesion, the idea is when you maybe 2 students bump into each other, but they're both starting at a calmer level baseline. Maybe then they're just like, hey, shrug it off and walk along. If one of them, or maybe both of them, are already mentally like really stressed out and really in a bad mood, this could instantly, result in a fight or some kind of, confrontation. So in school environments, I know teachers sometimes they're creating these little corners now, especially after COVID. In the US, we struggled a lot, like coming back, to normal conditions in schools, and so they're creating this little corner where students can sit for a while, maybe if they're feeling stressed out or not feeling well. So again, it's in my mind, it's about like lowering the threshold for escalation and increasing our kind of own resiliency, how we approach a situation that maybe, not pleasant, but again, do we shrug it off, or do we go into full escalation and confrontation mode?
Yeah, Renee,
Yeah.
I would add up to that that emotional intelligence is something that, as you get more emotional intelligent and you understand your emotions and you understand how to react them, maybe smaller things, smaller, daily issues, they are not going to escalate and end up, even sometimes, with the kid, with the injury, okay, and in the emergency room. And that's not the idea. So that state of calmness, that state of resilience, that state of emotional intelligence can be achieved through many different ways. And that's why it's one of the things that we explain in the workbook, through the sports, art, practices of gardening, even meditation in a very simple way, even if it's kids just learn to close their eyes and focus in the breathing for a couple of minutes, that will create a tremendous benefit. That will calm them down. Okay, and that's a fact. This is not something that I'm just making up. That's a biological fact. Okay, and a couple of minutes doing that, if it becomes normal, it becomes something regular, it could be a good contribution to that learning in this emotional intelligence. Is it easy in the beginning? Maybe not. Maybe it's a challenge. Okay, maybe it's a challenge and something that every teacher, every practitioner, maybe is going to find their own ways of doing that. All right. But it's a goal. It's something that we need to start seeing how we implement. That's what I say, and maybe you recall in some of our previous conversations. This is a challenge. We have a challenge ahead. We have many things to learn. And that's why Cpted is a global community. And we have experiences, and programs like this in which we are broadcasting and we are promoting our ideas globally. We need globally also practitioners that start taking this idea, implementing in their own way and feeding us. Okay, maybe somebody from Bolivia will say, oh, this is work for me. Somebody in France or in Germany, in India or in Australia will say, this way worked for me. And we can start building as a community how we get better approaches. That's why this is one of the reasons why we put together these seminars or these, webinars. So the discussion is open and the challenge, in a good sense, is open and outside for everybody. Okay.
And I think just adding to what Renee and Carlos said, I find the third generation is the most, I guess, long term. So, first generation, second generation is you can implement some of that stuff relatively quickly. The third generation, I think, takes a little more time, but I think it's the most important because it pulls everything else together. And if we want to have a future where the adults can control themselves, then we better start helping them learn that when they're young, and how that works. And I think if we want a resilient and sustainable child, adult community, then the hard work has to be done. And this is the one thing that I always get challenged on in my community. Well, that's not crime prevention. What has that got to do with crime prevention? And so you have to go back and sort of explain to them that crime prevention is not just enforcement. It's not just implementation. It's not just some of these other things. It's some of the esoteric stuff that you don't necessarily think about. Anything that has to do with the school and keeping kids in school and helping them learn and get along together is crime prevention. Like, really, it is. And anyway, I'll stop there. And we have one more question here directed to you, Carlos, from Macarena.
Okay.
Carlos, in your work in Honduras, how important is the work of the holistic approach to prevent the MARAS phenomena, as spelled MARAS, all in caps?
Well, one of the
I don't know what that means, so.
Maros are the gangs.
Ah,
Okay, is the local expression to say gangs. Well, in this context, working with children is more relevant than ever because they start getting involved, in this organized, criminal organizations since a very early age. They start recruiting them when they are kids. So the way of doing that is trying to save the children, okay, not allowing them or not giving them the opportunity to start getting involved in criminal activities. That's why, for instance, promoting that they stay in school, that they have places where they can go, places where they can meet, places where they can practice sports, places where they can learn, places where they can do homework, places where they can, get together in a celebration, in a community celebration. Having spaces, having places where kids can go and gather and do things is one step. When they are loose in the outside, doing nothing, just wondering what life it is, what life is going to be, because they are poor, they have no opportunities. That's where they are easy prey for these criminal organizations to take them. All right. So the way of getting them out of the line or getting into this criminal organization is opening for them opportunities, is training them, is teaching them how to manage also their emotions, to understand the social and physical environment. So education and giving them places and opportunities is a challenge. And one of the things that I'm facing now, one of the challenges that I have with my team and all the organizations, government organizations that we are working, is also implementing job opportunities, okay? How they can get inserted, in the work field. So it's not only building community spaces or sports spaces or places where they can, get together. It's also seeing how we can open them opportunities to have a real life. Okay. So it's a big challenge. It's a big challenge. That's why the international cooperation and the Honduras government has considered very well using Cpted in the 3 generations as one of the tools, one of the methodologies in order to implement in the communities, these comprehensive approaches programs, because they already know that just putting together only one part of it, just the infrastructure or just the community organization, it doesn't work. They had to be the 3 of them. And I completely agree with Elizabeth that putting together and practicing Cpted 3rd generation is a more longer, term work. So that's where it comes along also, that the authorities, they got to be on the ball, they got to be trained, they need to know their craft, they need to know what Cpted is, and what they need to know exactly why is that the programs are being applied in their communities in such a way. So again, big challenge.
Thanks, Carlos.
Okay?
Dennis, do we have time for our last question?
Yeah, I think if we can wrap up, I'm not sure what exactly the question
Okay,
is.
well,
Maybe you can...
it's kind of, we'll keep the answers to this one short. This
yes,
is again
please.
from Dinesh.
Yeah, then we can
according
wrap
to
up.
the experts, the Nalanda University, the world's first few discovered university by the archaeologist, has shown crime prevention imprints. Any thoughts on how history has enabled for the Cpted in schools and university? How much have we seen a comparison with the recent Cpted experience in the 19th century? I'm Renee? I'm afraid I don't know what
Are you saying there were references to crime? Is that the question? I just want to make sure I understand the question. Are there references found to crime prevention in this university?
Yeah, can I respond as
yeah, maybe, yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm just
Go ahead,
I think this could be a question of lost in translation. I don't think we should try and interpret it. If Dinesh can give us a bit more information, but at the moment I am honestly not sure what you asked. What I would like to refer to, though, while I have the floor, and maybe Dinesh can add something to it, is that the question around racism, I just want to make you aware that the ICA has, in fact, at the time, some time ago when this was in the news, prepared a response that was signed by our president, who's in the meeting, Macarena. I have included it, so I see there were some others as well who said they get asked this question quite often. You're welcome to make use of the PDF document that I've included in the chat, just because I see that there's some interest in it. I'm not sure if we understand the question, and if we don't, I think we should move on to closing. Elizabeth and Carlos and Renee.
All righty. Thank you, Tinus. Well, if there are no more questions, I think that we can wrap it up with a couple ideas. And I will ask Renee, what do you think is a couple of relevant ideas of what we have presented today?
Yeah, again, so moving, I think the main idea that I was trying to come across, that we're training ourselves in my profession, that builders of the built, designers of the built environment, to actually walk the walk, to actually implement these ideas in our own space in which we work, in the way we work, so we can then create spaces for other people, for our communities, to also apply, improvements in the physical, social, and psycho-emotional well-being to address safety all around. It was kind of my big point I was trying to make here.
All right. How about you, Elizabeth?
Well, I would agree with Renee. I think if you don't walk the talk, then it's hard when you get out to the community to all of a sudden switch gears if you're used to just telling everybody what to do. And I think for me the key point is working in the community, with the community, and helping the community to help themselves. So helping the community, even to the point where we're trying to work towards implementing recommendations that the community can do themselves, that it doesn't necessarily need outside help. So I think helping our communities grow in a way that makes them much more resilient and sustainable is my goal. Thanks, Carlos.
Okay, thank you. Well, I will add up just the final idea to wrap up this session. Just saying that the three environments working together is what we call, the comprehensive approach. And when the three environment gets into balance, getting a positive synergy among them, we can lower the levels of violence. Okay. My understanding is that in this comprehensive approach, when one of the three environments is out of balance, is out of the line, we get turmoil, violence comes in. So our goal is trying to balance, to find the way in which the three environments work together in harmony. Okay, like the keys on the piano, black and white, in perfect harmony makes music. If one of the keys, black or white, it get out of tune, the melody is not going to sound proper. Okay, something is going to be off. So it's a challenge. I invite everyone to visit our website to see the documents we have in there. I think if you are not a member of the ICA, you can become a member, get to our library, get the information we have, okay? And of course, the idea is out there to start thinking Cpted now in a wider idea in the school environment, but also out of the school environment using the same principle. I would like to thank again all the organizers. Big hello and hug to Manjari in India, of course, to Tinus Kruger in South Africa, and everyone that has been watching this broadcasting from Mexico, in Brazil, in Ecuador, in Chile, in Argentina, in other countries, and the US, in Canada. So greetings again to our friends and colleagues all around the world. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time. Thank you so much for participating and being with us today.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very much, everyone. Just before you go, you will see that we do have a few last words. I would like to make you aware of our conference again. Please go and have a look at our website often, because there will be information about that every so often. Let me just see. I'm trying to share the screen and it seems it hasn't shared. There we go. You should be able to see that information now. Then I would like to make you also aware of the survey. Please go and complete the survey. You can indicate there if you would like to get a certificate of attendance. You're more than welcome to do that, but you will only get it if you complete the survey, unfortunately. Then you can become a member. If you're not a member, please consider becoming a member. There's also something called the Individual Certification for Cpted Professionals program that you can get more information on. The same with our program for course accreditation and for Cpted course developers that you're more than welcome to go and have a look at. You can find us on social media. You'll be able to get more information there. And with that, we thank you and we close this webinar.
Thanks, Dennis.
Thank you, Dennis. Yeah, great.
Bye.
Can I just see? Okay, thanks everyone. Bye-bye.